Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be looking at chapter 14 of the Mythical Man Month, which is called Hatching a Catastrophe. This chapter revolves around the concept of schedule slippage and the fact that when projects are wildly late to get to market, it tends to not be because of some dramatic schedule disruption, but rather because of small hits taken here and there that over the course of time add up to a major slippage. The author uses the phrase, which is a good image, that a project becomes a disaster due to termites rather than a tornado. The first section is called Milestones or Millstones, which is also a great image, and we consider the fact that a project's milestones should be discrete, concrete, and event-based. This contrasts to a measure of a project's completeness as measured by how much of the coding is done because the amount of time it takes to write a given line of code increases geometrically as you approach the end of a project. By this I mean that when you start a feature, you'll likely be laying the groundwork pretty quickly and building on top of that. By the end of the project, however, you're solving difficult edge cases, debugging esoteric, unexpected behavior, and so on, which are much more time-consuming to address. Framing project completeness in terms of events such as the planning is complete, or the specifications are signed off by all parties, or all the features are working as expected with sufficient test coverage to prove so. These are less ambiguous and more easily verifiable across the team. The next section deals with potential apathy in a development team's day-to-day operation. If there is something that is going amiss that causes a schedule to slip by a day, then that's probably fine, right? No need to get too excited or alarmed. While this is likely better for developers' mental health in the long run, we should also have some self-discipline to not be too lackadaisical, because over time, this one day at a time slippage is what causes projects to ultimately be very late. When these delays start to stack up, even if it is even perceptible at the time, it's tempting for a manager to not worry too much about it, since the team will likely be able to catch up eventually, and so there isn't a need to raise an alarm to his boss. The problem, as we mentioned before, is that the cumulative effect is devastating and something that could likely be avoided if a higher authority figure intervenes early enough on to get everyone back on the right track. So while the natural response is to sweep delays under the rug, the manager's boss should keep an eye on things falling by the wayside and do the following to keep everyone accountable. The tool at hand here is reduction of role conflict. This speaks to the idea that there's a conflict of interest between a manager and his boss, in that if he requires intervention from his boss frequently, he, meaning the manager, his authority, both real and perceived, will be undermined by the fact that the big boss is intervening in instances where the manager could basically handle it. So to mitigate this, bosses should have something akin to status meetings where they simply hear from managers how things are progressing and perhaps advise if it would make sense to do so, as opposed to intervening themselves. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it thought-provoking, and I'll see you all in the next one.